All right, so now we are live. Okay, fantastic. Everyone in the audience, are you able to hear us and to see us? Maybe you can raise your hand or just drop a note. I also added in the Q&A. Thank you very much. If you want to let us know where you're dialing in from as well, that would be fantastic. Just to see where everyone is joining in from around the world. We'll give another minute or so to let people join. And then we'll get started because I know we have a packed agenda today. All right. I think we probably will already go ahead and let's go ahead and get started because we do have a lot to cover. And in the meantime, if you want to just let us know your organization and where you're dialing in from, that will be fantastic. So glad to be here at the accelerator session. Christina and I and Aaron on the call here as well. We're at the WCEF in Brussels the last 2 days. Now we're back home and excited to have people joining the call for our accelerator session from around the globe. So today's topic is around empowering a just transition to a global circular economy. And we have some wonderful panelists that are here with us today to give their experience in developing inclusive and circular business models. So I just wanted to start off quickly just with some house rules before I pass it over to Christina and to let our guest speakers introduce themselves. You can use the chat function to send us a note if you have any questions or comments. We will have time for Q&A at the very end of the session. So do please, you can add your comments and questions as we go, and you'll also have a chance to actually ask those questions at the end as well. We'll be using Mentimeter as a way to make the session more interactive. So you'll receive a link to answer some questions. They're very simple. There's no wrong answers, but we will be having you to participate in the next few minutes to get a little bit of an understanding of who is in the audience today. And if you want to turn on your videos, it is enabled for all of the participants, so you're welcome to share your video. Don't feel the pressure that you have to, but really looking forward to having everyone here today for an interactive conversation. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to the Yunus Environment Hub co-founder and managing director Christina Jaeger, to give a welcome and a little bit of an introduction around our organization before I hand it over to our panelists to let them introduce themselves. Christina?
Thank you so much, Julie, and a warm welcome also from my side to Yunus Environment Hub's accelerator session during the World Circular Economy Forum. It has been very refreshing to meet so many circular economy enthusiasts from around the world over the past 2 days. And we are very glad to be given the opportunity to host this accelerator session today on a very important topic, the just transition for a circular economy that is really at the core of our organization, where Yunus Environment Hub's vision is to achieve a world of 3 zeros, which is zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emissions. It is a very, very crucial topic for us to make this transfer from how we can create this world of 3 zeros by supporting social business entrepreneurs in our various incubator and accelerator programs. Some of you you will be hearing speaking today that really sit in the intersection of creating combined social, environmental, and economic impact. And over the past 3 years, we have incubated and accelerated more than 200 social business entrepreneurs across basically all continents, and trained more than 2,000 entrepreneurs in our programs, many of them also on the topic of circular economy and how circular principles can be used in order to transform a business model to reduce negative environmental impacts that a business naturally has by consuming natural resources or creating emissions. And so this is really like the DNA of our organization, of seeing how you can use entrepreneurship as a means for creating social impact while addressing environmental issues. And this experience and this expertise has led us for becoming like a leading voice on the topic of just transition and doing research work into looking on how we can provide recommendations for various stakeholders that we need in order to make this just transition work. Since this can not only come from the business side, but you need the regulatory framework where policymakers play a very important role. And of course, making sure that all of the different voices are being heard and how this can be done. So we're also going to be hearing today from this research aspect side. And we, as a UNIS Environment Hub, really want to make a contribution to that on helping everyone having the access to insights, to practical tools on how all of us, we can work together on making this just transition work. So I'm very excited for this session and for all of you to be here. And without further ado, I'll pass it back to Julie, our host today, to introduce us to the speakers and hear the fantastic inputs. Over to you, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christina. Fantastic. Great. So we're trying to make this as interactive as possible, as if we were actually all together in person. So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves as if we were all in the same room together, so you can get to know just a little bit about who they are, the organization that they're from, and where they're dialing in from, or where they're normally based. I'm not sure if they're in their home office here today. But I would like to just do a quick round of introductions before we dive into the specific topics. So maybe Fong, you can take it first.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, my name is Fong Yang. I'm currently here at the World Circular Economy Forum, but usually I'm based in Jakarta, working in 2 ASEAN GIZ cooperation projects in the area of waste management and marine litter prevention. Thank you.
Thank you. Madhvi.
Hi, I'm Madhvi. I'm the founder and the CEO of PadMed. PadMed is an initiative. We're based here in Nairobi at the moment. I used to live in Wales in the UK, but I've been in Kenya for 9 years.
Fantastic. Aaron?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Container Grid. We're based in Munich, speaking to you from Wuppertal today, and looking forward to get into a bit of depth on our logistics platform, Takeback platform today.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Mario.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Mario. I'm an academic. I'm the director of the Post-Growth Innovation Lab based in the University of Vigo in Spain.
Fantastic, thank you. And Leonard.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leonard Mwasi, part of the UNIS Environment Hub family from Nairobi, Kenya, working around circular economy and social businesses. So glad to see you all.
Fantastic. And I'm Julie Chrysler. I'm your moderator today. I'm based in Barcelona, and I'm leading circular economy and social impact for UNIS Environment Hub. So really excited to dive into the session today. But before we do, I would like you to take a minute to do a quick Mentimeter to get your understanding of the just transition before we start to dive into the topic. So if you can click on the link that's shared in the chat and just answer the question of how do you define just transition in your own words? And if you're not familiar with the topic, which is very much okay as well, because that's what we're here to explain, just let us know that you're not familiar with the topic. So if you can just take a minute to do that, and I will go ahead and share my screen once we get people to start to answer the question. Is everyone able to access? Okay, good. I'm seeing answers coming in already. All right, so it's probably moving around a bit, so maybe I'll give it a minute here before we start to look at some of these. But I see labor rights, fair trade, equal transition. For a few people, it's new, so that's great as well. Inclusive and bio-based, social justice, decent jobs, inclusive decision-making, collaboration, democratic, sustainable, Global South, paradigm shift, no one is left behind. Great, thank you for being so interactive on this. I really appreciate the feedback. Okay, so it looks like for most people, we have a bit of an understanding of the topic. For some, it's new, so that's fantastic, I think, to be here in this conversation today and to dive in deeper around the topic. To kick us off today, I'm going to go over to Phong, who's going to introduce a little bit around the Just Transition, an introduction around his organization, and then some insights from a research report that UNICEF Environment Hub is conducting in the ASEAN region. So Phong, will you be presenting your slides from your side? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank
so
you,
I will
Julie,
pass
for
it,
the introduction.
pass it over to you.
Now I'm uploading the presentation. It should be visible now. Okay.
Yep, we can see it now.
Yeah, can you
Perfect.
see it now? Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, again, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present here. My name is Phong Yang. I'm from GIZ. GIZ is a German state company and service provider in the field of international cooperation for sustainable development. And as such, we implement development cooperation projects on behalf of the German government. And I'm more specifically from the 3R PROMAR project. 3R PROMAR is for reduce, reuse, recycle to protect the marine environment. It's a regional ASEAN project, which we are implementing in Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines. And yeah, the objective is to improve the capacities of our partners in reducing land-based plastic waste, marine litter. Yeah, in 3R PROMAR, in our project, we have now taken up the topic of just transition as it has now gained global acknowledgement. The concept of just transition has evolved in the context of development cooperation as the interconnection of economic progress, social justice, and environmental sustainability is increasingly recognized and acknowledged. And so the principle of just transition was called in the climate discussion and also more recently in the circular economy, and consequently it is also addressed in the negotiation of the Global Plastic Treaty. But what just transition means, so what are the possibilities and starting points specifically here in the area of circular economy? And to answer this question, we have asked UNICEF Environment Hub to elaborate the study on just transition in waste management and circular economy in the ASEAN region. So the study has basically the objective to research the understanding of key stakeholders on just transition, the relevant aspects, and how they are currently being implemented. And as a result, we have elaborated a set of recommendations for different target groups for a just approach in circular economy for different target groups, but also as well for us as an implementing agency and as a project. For our funding agency, BMZ, which is the German Ministry of Development and Economic Cooperation, just transition is very important. They consider just transition is only, or a transition is only successful if it includes emerging economies and developing countries, and projects and interventions must be designed in a way that it is socially just and no one is left behind. As the topic is of global relevance, there are also different definitions on just transition. We have, for our work, we have adopted the definitions from the International Labour Organizations as the foundation of our framework and the criteria, as we consider it as it is to the point and involves all relevant aspects. So according to this inclusive circular economy or just transition, so an inclusive circular economy acknowledges workers' rights and involves them in shaping policies. And this includes social protection measures alongside policies to close material loops and promote measures to ensure decent work. But why just transition? So as a narrative, just transition is considered to provide opportunities to foster fairness and inclusivity, ensuring that no one is left behind in the transition to a more sustainable economy. By promoting sustainable practices, just transition can also stimulate economic growth and creating new opportunities. And so at the bottom line, it has increasingly recognized as a pathway to achieve social and environmental goals. And therefore, it should be rather considered as an opportunity for all who are involved in the circular economy than rather as understood as an obligation. But so far this is the narrative. But how does just transition look like in practice? So to gain deeper insights into the perspectives of key stakeholders in the ASEAN region, we have conducted a series of interviews among different group of stakeholders. And through these interviews, we were able to gain better understanding regarding their perception of just transition, their expectation. And we also learned about ongoing practices and projects, which informed our conclusions and recommendations. So to summarize a little bit the stakeholder interview, we can say that for ASEAN countries, there is a challenge in balancing rapid economic and development goals with the environmental sustainability and social equity objectives. But they recognize the complexity of just transition and also the benefit, and emphasize the need to develop a common and comprehensive understanding. They suggest also to include or to integrate social policies into environmental policies. So civil society emphasized the importance of inclusivity in green transition opportunities. They also advocate and encourage localized approaches in waste management with direct representation of those who are affected. Businesses, there are few businesses, in particular the global players, which are already practicing aspects of just transition by, for example, providing improved work conditions or healthcare. But most of the businesses still face challenges in understanding and adopting just transition strategies, and they express their concern about the lack of convincing models of just transition and just transition strategies. Waste management and informal sector are concerned about job security and social security issues. They call for reskilling options. So you see, each of the stakeholders, different stakeholders, have different concern and observation on the just transition, and this we used then to develop a comprehensive framework based on some or 10 main principles to guide stakeholders in ensuring the fair and equitable transition. So the graphic you are seeing here is developed by Yunus Environment Hub as the author of the study. Just to pick few principles. So we had one principle refers to decent work. So to provide opportunities for decent work, fair wages, and safe working conditions. Capacity building is very important to development the skill to ensure the workforce is prepared for new jobs, in particular in the upstream of waste management and circular economy. Fostering policy coherence, International cooperation and knowledge sharing on platforms like today at the sideline of the World Circular Economy Forum, but also other key events as the INC next week. Yeah, just to highlight few principles. For time reason, I cannot go through all. So based on those interviews, reviews of literature, and also then the developed principles, we have developed a set of recommendations. What you see here is or are initial, more generic recommendations. An important aspect is referring to upscaling and reskilling. As we aim to move from the linear to circular business models, there will be a need for new skills for workers. As I mentioned, the rather upstream of the value chain, for example, repair and reuse models, and how to achieve this. Strategies to achieve this need to address the qualification of unskilled workers. So this could be done through governments, offering vocational training, qualification, integrating circular design aspects in school curriculums, but also to provide incentives like subsidies or tax reduction for those companies offering repair services or offering green jobs. It is also important that there is opportunity to it is important and that there is opportunity to address just transition along the entire value chain, so upstream and downstream. For example, when it comes to labor rights, decent work, and yeah, fair payment, child labor. This study focused, or our study focused very much on the plastic value chain, but what we have also observed and concluded is that it is necessary to broaden the perspective beyond waste management to ensure inclusive circular models across all sectors of circular economy. So also to go beyond, of course, waste management and circular economy. Now I will come to some recommendations which we prepared for specific target groups, for government. Here you see the recommendations for government and policymakers. So for government, we suggest to embed just transition principles into the legislation and regulations. This would, this is a rather cost-effective, high-impact approach for other countries to ensure this inclusive circular economy transition. Such kind of regulation development can be supported, for example, by multi-stakeholder advisory committees to guide just transition policy making and development. It might be required to perform comprehensive impact assessment to identify the vulnerable sectors and communities. For target groups like waste management companies and environmental NGOs, we suggest to foster partnerships with local governments and communities to co-design contextualized just transition solutions. So to elaborate decentralized waste management system, which includes, for example, inclusive, innovative business models that provide. That provide decent work opportunities for informal waste workers. This might require also awareness raising campaigns to build a public understanding on just transition and to support these kind of transitional measures. Also for time reason, I need to go very quickly to those recommendations. So recommendations for businesses includes, for example, to integrate just transition principles into the corporate sustainability strategies and policies. This includes, for example, to apply a supplier code of conduct that incorporate just transition principles and requirements. And this is a quite practical way for ASEAN countries to promote just transition principles throughout their supply chain. Another suggestion refers to education and training of institutions to develop curricula and programs. Also, again, here with the objective for green skills and to prepare the workers for upstream activities and business models. Now, quickly also to the recommendations for implementing agencies for projects like us. What can we take out from this study? So one recommendation or one suggestion could be to establish a multi-stakeholder just transition committee or task force at the national or regional level to bring together relevant representatives to develop and to oversee the implementation. It's a complex topic, and each of those involved stakeholders have different concerns and interests. So it would be very beneficial to elaborate this kind of common understanding and to develop compromises. To incorporate principles of just transition in our project, in our pilot project, to demonstrate the feasibility and benefits of just transition, to showcase the practical application, and as I mentioned, to involve the businesses and affected vulnerable group as inclusive as possible. And this also similar here. This might require a social impact assessment to identify the potential effects of the transition on workers, communities, vulnerable groups. Implementation of just transition also require communication and awareness-raising campaigns to promote the understanding of just transition principles, the importance, the benefits to waste management and circular economy among stakeholders. Very quickly so far, these are the tentative recommendations. We are still working on the study. The results of this study will provide our project Promar with valuable, fruitful ideas for our current and also future activities. So we are very happy to continue our work with Yunus Environment Hub to finalize the study and to make use of the results as much as possible. I think so far I'm at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Phong. Fantastic, great. And I'll put my email address also in the chat if anyone is interested in receiving the report when it's finalized. I'm happy to send that over to you as well. Great, so we saw just transition and circular economy with a focus in the ASEAN region, and we also have another project going on a similar topic in more of a focus around Europe and Africa. So we have Mario Pensera, who's here to join to talk about the Just2CE project as a part of the Horizon 2020. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Mario, to give you the floor to share insights from your research.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Can you confirm that I have 5 minutes, right? Yeah.
You can go over by 1 or 2 if you want. I think we're on track.
That's fine. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Mario. I remind you that I'm the director of an academic group called Post-Growth Innovation Lab, based in the University of Vigo. I also work for the Autonomous University of Barcelona in Catalonia, Spain. And today I just want to briefly introduce our H2020 project, which is a project funded by the European Commission 3 years ago. This is our last year in the project. It's a 3 years project that is ending in August. And we are going to have a final conference in June together with the European Society of Ecological Economics and Degrowth International Conference here in Pontevedra in northern Spain. So the project is called Just Transition to Circular Economy, perfectly aligned with the previous presentation. And the consortium is composed by a number of universities in Europe, in Africa, and research centers. We also have some companies, and we also have some partners organization. This is the website of the project, and I invite you, if you are interested in navigating our website. There is plenty of resources, the deliverable results of the projects. There are policy briefs, academic papers, and we also have a map of circular economy, just circular economy practices, and also a number of videos and media, and also a tool for navigating and analyzing global supply chain and injustice that we can find on the global supply chain. Okay, so very quickly, I would like to share with you the spirit of the projects and why we start these projects, and what was the intention to get these grants. So we acknowledge that there are different ways of framing circular economy. And in order to simplify, we can think of two main way of framing this idea of circularity. One, which is definitely mainstream dominance, which is the one who is very present in the institutional setting, like European Union, for example, and also in the corporate discourse, which is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation formulation, circular economy, that stem from the realization that we need to construct a different form of organizing our economy in contraposition to the linear economy. So what is the linear economy? The linear economy is basically our current economic system that is based on exploitation of natural resources. So we extract natural resources that are provided for free by nature. We move it around, and we build stuff, we produce stuff in factories, and then the result of this process is waste. Okay, not only is waste, but it's accelerating. The process is accelerating the production of waste. You know, I'm pretty sure that most of you are familiar with notion of planned obsolescence. So the system is designed not only to exploit natural resources, but also to produce waste in a more efficient way as much as possible. Okay, so and actually we are accelerating the rate of producing waste. And the important things, the starting important initial reflection of the project is that there are a lot of invisible injustice in this process. The first one is the one that I already mentioned, which is the appropriation of free natural resources. Nature is not charging any money to extract minerals, water, energy, and so far, and so on. But there is also another invisible injustice, which is the appropriation of free reproductive work, which is the appropriation of the work that we need to reproduce ourselves. If you are a worker working in a factory, you are receiving a salary for your production work. But there is all the work that is invisible, that can be called reproductive work, which is a caring work, which is the work that I need to prepare my meals, to prepare the breakfast to my kids, to keep my body functioning and health. Okay, and this is also related at the global scale with global injustice. No, traditionally we can talk about colonialism and imperialism, that are those mechanisms that allow the global north, so the so-called developed industrial country, to go to the global south. We are talking here about Africa, Latin America, part of Asia, and to appropriate these free natural resources and the reproductive labor. And this is a project that fed in the first place the Industrial Revolution and modern capitalism. That is a still ongoing process. We still have a lot of war in Africa and in other parts of the world that are perpetuating this system, and the ongoing genocide in Palestine is another last example. Okay, so what is the reaction to this model? Circular economy. Okay, so circular economy is a way to reframe our economy, trying to close the loop of this linear process. So the idea is to try to recycle, reuse most of the material into this cycle. It sounds good, But in our project, we developed an alternative to this mainstream discourse that is based on basically 4 problematization of the mainstream notion of circular economy. These ideas are reported in this report published last year, a framework to assess the transition to circular economy at the macro level. This is totally free. You have access to this document. You can download it from our website. So let's summarize these 4 criticisms that we have to the mainstream notion of circular economy. So our first criticism is the circular economy neglects thermodynamics. So there is the illusion that we can close the loop, that we can recycle everything and we can reuse all the materials. But according to the second law of thermodynamics, we know that the economic system cannot be circular because any economic system is based on physics law. And physics say that any economic transaction is based on the materiality of life, and the process that's that function in this system can function according to the second term, the law of thermodynamics, that say that any process is dissipative. It means that, for example, we cannot recycle energy. Once we burn oil, we cannot reuse the energy, which is basically heat, to produce other goods or to deliver other. Sorry, let me switch off my WhatsApp. So the second criticism is the fact that circular economy, at least the mainstream formulation of circular economy, doesn't question the imperative of endless economic growth. Again, according to the second law of thermodynamics, it's impossible to have infinite economic growth in a finite planet. So any policy, any action based on the idea of circularity needs to take into account the fact that we cannot expand our economic system endlessly. Third, the general discourse of circular economy is too much focused on the idea of technology, and techno-optimism actually is, I would say, that is dominated by this idea of eco-modernism that say that doesn't matter.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but the presentation seems to have gone for everybody.
Sorry?
We can't see the presentation anymore.
Sorry.
Screen.
Let me share. Can you see it now?
Yes, thanks.
Right? Okay. So the third point is that circular economy, the mainstream formulation of circular economy, is too much focused on technology. So that the overwhelming discourse about delivering more technology, innovation is always good, neglecting the dark side and potential risk on introduction of new technology, and basically can be summarized in the motto, technology will save us, usually framed according to market ideology, free market ideology. And this is extremely problematic for a number of reasons that maybe we can discuss in the question time. And finally, which is probably the most important point in our project, is the fact that mainstream circular economy doesn't question unfair social relation. It's true that in the last 4 years, there's been an increasing interest in understanding the social dimensions of transition, and that's why we are here. And all this idea of the just transition that stem from the academic discipline of political ecology are increasingly more and more discussed in the context of circular economy. But still, most of the policy that are being formulated, especially, for example, in the European Union on circular economy, completely neglects the social relation and the social dimension, and especially in the project, we focus on 3 dimension. The gender dimension, the fact that most of the work that relates to care is charged over women and minority groups, labor rights, and the geopolitics. The previous presenter mentioned some of the aspect of the fact that we are living in a world in which products and services are delivered on global scale. So we need to consider the injustice produced along the global value chain. And actually, the irony is that we are already living in a circular world in which, for example, my smartphone is produced using a mineral extracted in Congo, then it's assembled probably in China and is used by me, and as 65% of the e-waste will probably end in Ghana. which is one of the case study in the project. So the system is already circular, but this circularity is destructive for people and environment. So a new circular economy is needed. In the project, we have a number of proposals. I suggest you to also have a look at our policy brief that intend to inform policymakers, especially at the level of European Union, with a number of proposals. I will just end here by suggesting 4 big intellectual houses that, if you are interested in this notion, can be explored. The first one is to make a transition from mainstream neoclassical economics that is completely alien to reality, and to try to explore a new way of framing economics, which are provided by ecological economics and political ecology. My second suggestion is to have a look at the movements, academic movements, also activist movements of degrowth, post-growth, who are people that are trying to develop an alternative to this ideology of infinite economic growth. So the idea that our society needs economic growth and continuous economic expansion to improve our well-being. Third, the level of the school of thinking about social control of technology, and which is directly related to the notion of democratic planning. We need some planning of our economy to put at the center again to our economic action people and what is really matters, because leaving the transition in the hands of free market and big multinational corporation is definitely not the way to achieve a just transition. Thank you very much. Whatever you want to go a little bit deeper in the project, just drop me a mail or make a question at the end.
Thanks so much, Mario. Great, fantastic. So before we dive into the next part of our panel, I actually want to send one more Mentimeter. So based on the last 2 speakers, this Mentimeter is going to ask you, what's something new that you learned about the just transition and circular economy? So if you can take just a minute to click on the link that's in the chat, and I will open up to view. I'll give you a minute here to write your answers, and then I'll go ahead and share. Something new that popped out or something that was reaffirmed, if you want to put that in there. I'll go ahead and share my screen as we're starting to get some answers coming in. All right, so circular economy is not always just. Paradigm shift is needed, and new thinking is needed. With post-growth, and the words are moving around, so I'm trying to follow them as they're moving. Reskilling, co-creation, thermodynamics, just transition principles, better alternatives to circular economy. Great. So good. I'm glad that everyone took something new out of this session. Social dimensions. Fantastic. All right. Give it just another minute here for the other answers to come up. The dark side of the actual circular economy. I think it's good. I think that the fact that better alternatives to circular economy, exactly. So creating this circular economy that now is not just circular for the environment, but also just for society, I think is, yeah, where we're focused here in the session today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we are going to transition into the next part of the session, which is a panel conversation with 2 of our panelists, with Madhvi and with Aaron, so from PadMat and from Container Grid. So basically, the two participants or the two panelists are coming from our Circularize Accelerator that we launched in 2022 to support social business entrepreneurs to transition from linear to circular business models and to become, especially in the initial cohort, to become more resilient after the pandemic. So our first cohort ran in Kenya, supporting 25 businesses to identify opportunities and pilot circular solutions. They received support and pitch preparation for a Funders Day, where they pitched for funding to actually implement those solutions. We then expanded the Circularize Accelerator to Germany, where we supported already circular businesses like Container Grid to scale. And so the session here today is going to go, we'll go into more details around the accelerator in the following session. And for the session here today, we'll get to meet the two social business entrepreneurs from Kenya and Germany, PadMed and Container Grid, to share more about their circular business models and how they ensure a just transition in their organization and along their value chain to ensure both social and environmental impact. So another welcome to Madhvi and to Aaron for this part of the session here today. Okay, so we don't have any slides. It's going to be more of an interactive panel. And if you have questions along the way, do put those in the chat. I'm not sure if we'll be able to address them during this session, but we can definitely keep them in mind for the end as well. So let me start with you, Madhvi. So tell us about PadMed and your circular business strategies and solution.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you for the platform and the presenters so far. I've also learned something new, so that's great. So what PadMed, as I said, we are based in Kenya at the moment, and it's a social enterprise. We manufacture reusable sanitary pads, and our commitment is to protecting dignity, building confidence, and strengthening health. As we were shifting to circular economy, during the Circularize, we realized that our business was not just about protecting the environment. It's also, we realized that we have a responsibility to transform economies and societies for promoting better health, education, creating jobs which are greener, and also sustainable growth. In my personal opinion, circular economy is a great opportunity to build more equitable society, inclusive in all aspects. So what we work on is on three pillars, what I like to say pillars: education, empowerment, and environment. So through the education program, we have educational workshops, which we give out to boys and girls in schools and also community members, teaching them about menstrual health management and sexual and health reproductive rights, bringing in awareness, bringing in destigmatization and also social taboos, working with local communities and chiefs just to demystify many cultural things they may have. In terms of empowerment, we skill and train women and some men in our program who are marginalized, so to speak, teen moms, for example, incarcerated women, who then help us in manufacturing the pads. And the pads themselves are, on the environmental aspect, they're 100% biodegradable. They're made with natural resources sourced from Kenya. And we are trying to move away from the regular disposable pads, which are made of up to 90% plastic. And through product design, our product is also standardized by the Kenyan government. They're durable, easy to clean, natural, reusable, and very long lasting. So the manufacturers currently who we source from have also transitioned to grow their own cotton in Kenya. So I think it's more of a great relationship right now. And overall, these strategies, the 3 E's, are helping us reduce waste, promote inclusivity, especially within the societies. And as we go forward, we really hope to foster some sustainability through these programs.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so now over to you, Aaron. So tell us about Container Grid and how your business model contributes to a circular economy.
Happy to do so, and it's great to see so many people in this call. And thanks a lot for the content and the inspiration from the initial speakers. And when it comes to Container Grid, we're an early stage startup based in Munich, and helping producers to implement circular principles in their supply chain. How do we do that? By helping them to close the loop at industrial scale. So our focus is on the metals and polymer processing industries out there, and there are many suppliers who process these materials for them. And more specifically, our platform targets the logistics part of the supply chain of recycled material, which is extremely complex, and this closed loop system that is really coming forward as one of the solutions out there in the automotive sector, in the heavy industries, in the chemicals producing industry, but also consumer goods or textile, etc., is take back systems. And our platform is focused on enabling take back systems as a service. And what does that mean? On the one side of the value chain where waste is being produced, we do not only optimize recycling, but on the other side of the value chain, we enable producers to improve their access to recycled material. And now many people would say, okay, the industry is actually not interested in buying more recycled material, not interested in using more recycled material in their production. And how do we help here? How do we optimize the trust in these recycled material by enabling them to source this feedstock, these recycled materials in one, consistent qualities, and two, large volumes. And a hugely fragmented supply chain, it's been very, very difficult for these companies to buy recycled material at large volumes. Our USP is making the producer guarantee the recycler that it is going to offtake a certain volume in the future if and only if the recycler supplies these materials at a certified quality, at an eco-label quality. And that's what we're striving for with Container Grid. And this has an impact on the just transition because of these complex supply chains of batteries, these complex supply chains of aluminium or textile globally.
Fantastic, thank you. And you're transitioning nicely to the next set of questions. So as we learned about your circular business model, now let's connect that right with the topic today as well on just transition. So going back to you, Madhvi, maybe you can tell us a little bit more in detail about how you implement just transition strategies in PadMat, and then how do you also measure that impact?
Yeah, so basically we employ, empower and reskill marginalized women. Again, that's in different parts of the country. So marginalized, we define it as, say, teen moms or pregnant teen girls, or we have a factory in the prison in Kenya, or ex-incarcerated women where we have a little unit outside the prison for ex-prisoners. The idea is that we can train them and to be able to provide them decent work to earn some financial stability. For example, in Kenya, the rate of recidivism is 47%. So in many cases, the women, when they would leave the prison, they would end up offending somehow, intentionally perhaps, and going back into prison. So the idea is for us to be able to see this problem and to bring them into our program to empower them and hopefully earn a decent living and not have to go to prison again and again. Also, in addition, we work on another program called MHM in the Workplace, which helps in shaping sustainable industrial policies and encourage social equity and inclusion within the corporate setting, especially factories in Kenya, where we go in, assess the situation, and really bring in some menstrual health awareness within the admin, within the workers, and to help them with products so as to make sure that their efficiency is increased and they have clean wash facilities, for example. In addition, the products that we manufacture are environmentally sustainable, and as we innovate and scale and as we get some really valuable help through some experts, we're progressing into manufacturing within the premises where we resource. So ideally, cutting our carbon footprint and making it as minimum as possible, and also better managing our waste. And how we measure our impact, so we have many partnerships which would measure impact through online platforms like apps, or we have our own in-house surveys, and we can measure direct impact, for example, percentage of attendance increased in schools by school-going girls, or exams which are not missed because of the period. It's harder for us to track secondary impact, for example, how many girls are not having secondary infections like UTIs, for example, or exactly how much money has been saved in that household because of now having the pads, etc. I hope that's yeah, that makes sense.
Does make sense. And I know you're also tracking some great environmental impacts like waste diverted from landfill. Maybe you want to touch on some of those numbers as well.
Yeah, so basically more than 6 million pads saved from going into the landfill here, but also manufacturing companies of disposable pads have a carbon footprint of 3.6 kilos per pad. So which means that we are saving that from what we are reusing in the textile industry. We're saving that going to the landfills, going into the atmosphere. So overall, the carbon footprint of that individual who's a user is also much better.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, Erin, back over to you. So what does just transition mean to you? And can you tell us about your work with waste collectors in the recycling process and how you ensure decent work for them in your value chain?
Absolutely, we'll be happy to do so, and it very well fits into what Madhuri was saying in actually gaining access to these different stakeholders and giving them the possibility to include themselves into sustainable practices, and to actually mirror that to the German waste management recycling sector, which looks very similar to the SMB and mid-market architecture of the waste management recycling industry in other countries. We need to help them to transition to a circular economy, since they were still nowadays are thinking linear, even though they are waste managers and recyclers. So how do we do that at Container Grid? We, in the forefront of our mission, really try to implement procedures in this value chain to minimize downcycling and landfilling. So by prioritizing progressive corporations that follow robust recycling strategies and want to implement these at scale. How do we do that? Well, the waste managers and recyclers, especially these at less powerful levels of the value chain, so upstream, the ones that have invested in sorting infrastructure, they need to benefit from this shift towards a circular economy to be able to keep it just. And how do we do that? We enable them to integrate into the platform economy, with stability, transform their business model into something that is neutral in terms of redistribution, and aiming for a fair distribution across stakeholder groups and across value chain components. A decentralization of supply chains will be going on, and Container Grid is trying to be the instrument in this rewiring and this decentralization and modernization of material supply chains, also by helping these waste managers, recyclers to identify alternative off-taking streams. Okay, a lot of the waste nowadays is still going to incineration, to waste to energy, and chemicals recyclers are already crying for these materials being burned and lost forever. But also mechanical recyclers can really profit from new technologies and improved streamlining of their material flows and bundled material flows into their premises. So guaranteed offtake agreements actually forcing the industry, forcing the automotives, heavy industries, these conglomerates out there to buy recycled materials at certified qualities, to give stability and predictability to recycling and waste management entities out there, and promote eco labels and material quality certificates.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so the last question for this part of the session, and it goes the same question for both of you. So what aspects have you found key in building and scaling a circular business? So I think today we have a broad group of stakeholders on the call, but maybe there's some founders as well that are looking to either transition their business or to start a new business. So what has been key for you, and what support do you think businesses need to ensure a just transition as they move towards circular strategies? So Matthew, do you want to start since we're going back and forth? Thanks.
Yeah, I think for us, innovation has been key because, you know, the product design, minimum waste, we have been very lucky to have valuable expert advice on rebranding. So that's always helpful in the innovation. Another thing which has helped us is collaboration, you know, looking for partnerships and working with stakeholders in the value chain, also working with governments here and in Wales, and to understand policies or to reshape some policies. Another big one has been education and awareness, you know, trying to understand the bottlenecks, why they're there, in terms of consumers, and also to work through this through educating the stakeholders. You know, for example, bringing in brand awareness or health awareness, etc. We've also benefited from measuring impact to actually graphically show what we do, why we do it, and what impact we're having socially, environmentally, economically, etc. How we would advise on just transition. I think what we really benefited was from getting a grant from their foundation for the Women's Empowerment Award, which gave us good support, which gave us lots of networking opportunities and avenues where we can explore and scale. Also, always being up to date with policy and regulatory framework, you know, like I said, liaising with governments and corporates and understanding what fair and social gender equity really means in terms of inclusion. And I think finally capacity building, where getting the appropriate tech assistance to help build skills, not just for us as founders, but also within the programs.
Great, thank you. Aaron, same question for you.
Happy to do so, since we're going back and forth, and let me touch on a few points that I find extremely important moving forward. Having built this software as a service solution for waste management SMBs in Germany, over 50 customers, over 35,000 orders being fulfilled through our platform per month, and now really having expanded this. After having gained expertise into the supply chain of recycled material, expanding this to a fully fledged platform that really integrates the industry in buying recycled material through efficient logistics. What was really important for us was to aim high from the beginning. So we started with this. I mean, vision is always a funny word, but it helps us promote our social businesses in the early stages. So our vision, we started with the vision 5 years ago to facilitate access to recycled material, even democratize access to recycled material. So we have aimed high from the beginning, because looking at the situation of our planet, the situation that our planet finds itself in, we need these long shots and these systemic business models to promote resource efficiency. And how do we do that? By having collaborated shoulder by shoulder with these waste managers. And there's more than 10,000 of them in Germany. And without them aligning to the circular economy we need their infrastructures. We might even need the waste traders that are sitting on their phones every day and moving a certain waste fraction from A to B. We might even need the waste traders if they align with the principles of the circular economy, if they actually believe that downcycling and landfilling should be reduced. So the right stakeholder engagement, communicating clearly the benefits of the platform economy, also by engaging with impact lobby groups. So the Yunus Environment Hub, but also the BDI Circular Economy Initiative in Berlin, and the VDI, many other impact lobby groups that have been very helpful in pushing things forward. Last but not least, helping corporates moving into environmental stewardship. So moving from these initial lighthouse projects that have really brought the light to circular economy and how it can be done, actually taking them from these initial lighthouse projects to a scalable way of integrating them into their global supply chains. Not to forget, most importantly, by helping these corporates to support vulnerable groups, to support underprivileged communities that have suffered most from the industrialization of the last decades. So really transitioning in a genuine way instead of looking at growth only.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And I've added links for both PadMat and Container Grid in the chat here. Also, being a very diverse group, if you see any opportunities to collaborate, please reach out to Madvi or to Aaron directly, or you can reach out to me and I can put you in touch, because making these connections and partnerships are really important. I see that somebody mentioned like the access to finance. It's hard to be a startup, so if anybody has any support or partnerships or recommendations, let's use this also as a networking opportunity. So we have 9 minutes left. I'm hoping to still take questions from the audience, but I do have one final question for the panelists. So if you can keep your answers brief, I would appreciate that in case there's any questions that the audience wants to bring up. We'll start with our two social business founders, to Madvi and to Aaron, and we'll mix it up and let Aaron go first this time. The question to you is, what one piece of advice would you give businesses looking to transition to inclusive circular business models? Again, just a quick 1 minute response.
Absolutely. Let me make it quick. To the entrepreneurs out there, let's keep our curiosity going. Let's always learn about the stakeholders involved in this huge map of ecosystem that we're playing into, and schedule calls again and again to iterate fast and agile, and not only look at the environmental and social impacts of your social business, but also the economic dimension. How can I get to money? What is the fastest way to market? And last but not least, to the corporates out there and to the industry, when it comes to your complex supply chain, look at your recycling partners, look at your primary raw material producers and suppliers, and their market position to understand the economics behind, and optimize your approach to rewiring your material flows. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. Madvi?
Thank you. And this is from somebody who's been helping us power through. The final thoughts are, there is no better time than now to demand a gender responsive approach to ensure that circular transition leaves no one behind. As economies attempt to break away from the unsustainable linear models, it is imperative that the transformational potential of circular economy be utilized to especially count women in. And then finally, the link between gender inequality, poverty, and environmental perils is too obvious to ignore. Transitioning to circular economies not only promises a more sustainable future, but also offers the work a fantastic opportunity to design out inequality permanently. And I think that's also in line with the Yunus 3 zeros. So yeah, those are our final thoughts.
Thank you so much. All right, moving back to following to Mario. So the same question for both of you. Based on your report findings, what would be your advice to increase collaboration across regions to enable the just transition for a circular economy? So maybe Fong, you can start if you're still, yep, there you are.
Yep. Yes, sure. Thank you, Julie, for the question. Yeah, from our review, in particular from our interviews with the stakeholders, we can conclude that all stakeholders acknowledge the importance of just transition. But we also observe that each of the stakeholders have different views, concerns, interests, and expectations from those just transition initiatives. For example, if you talk to the private sector, they also expect the government to contribute, providing clear frameworks and to contribute with substantial materialized support. And if we want to advance in this matter, we need to bring those stakeholders or their representatives together in an inclusive manner to develop a joint understanding and to develop trust and compromises that address the needs of all stakeholders. So we acknowledge the importance of just transition, but at the same time, we also need to be aware of how difficult it can be to implement those principles when it comes, for example, to fair wages, labor rights, just supply chain in industry. It touches very quickly other areas of interventions involving even more stakeholders. And then the discussion also becomes very politically. So if we need to advance, we need to have a lot of dialogues, building trust. And I just take up what Aaron said before. So we need to identify and involve the impact lobby group in such dialogues, right? So yeah, it's a good start that we have this acknowledgement, but still a lot to do and yeah, 2 dialogues. Thank you.
Thank you, Fong. Mario, how about for you? No, can't hear you.
Better now?
Now we can, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my quick answer to this is that please bear in mind that the transition is not a business project, is not a technical project, it's a political project. Okay. And I understand that there is a huge variety of stakeholders in the audience. Most of them probably are interested in opening new businesses. This is fantastic, and we need more of this. We need more of the example that we saw here today. But this is going to be a political project. This is not a technical project. This is like getting around the table and try to see how we can organize our economy, our international relation in a fairer way, which is not the case now at multiple levels. At the UN level, we're seeing what's happening at the European level as well. And say that this is really the starting point. Say that I think that there are a number of concepts that we need to introduce and we need to use in this idea of just transition to circular economy. First one is compensation. We start to need to talk about compensation between North and South. Our present economy is based on unjust relation between countries and between continents. So the first mobilizing word is compensation. Second, we need to start thinking of a multipolar world in which we don't have one power dominant country that is setting the agenda, the political agenda on the global scale. Okay, and finally, and this is connected to the idea of that we need political action. We need to start demanding, especially when we are talking about global web value chains, fairer trade agreements. We know that if you are familiar with the old international politics around trade agreements, we are witnessing the closure of very unfair and unjust and very obscure, non-transparent trade agreements between Europe and US, for example, the TTIP or the ALCA project in the Americas, for example. So we need to start demanding our policymakers more transparent way of negotiating fairer trade agreements, if it's a continental agreement or one-to-one country agreement. This is super important. So my suggestion is always to act on different level. We can start a business, social business, this is totally okay. But together with this, we need political action. I mean, that means come together with a specific fight, contact your political representative, and make your voice heard.
Thank you so much. Just quickly, I know we're almost out of time. I think we don't have a lot of time for audience questions, but if you do want to leave them in the chat, I can also try and answer some of those. There's one about the informal sector I see as well. maybe we can take those. I think, Leonard, the question that we had to you was around like action that people can take, but I think going to the course is also a good action. I think that also answers the question around the metrics, because there is an area in the course around the impact metrics. But maybe we can just address quickly the question around the informal sector that Rebecca brought up. I don't know if Rebecca's still on the call. But how does the informal sector play into the just transition of the circular economy? And there's a reference to Zambia. So I don't know, Mario, if you want to take this one, given the geographical relevance. Otherwise, Fong or myself can take it. It's up to you.
Okay, so what is the specific question?
So the question is, how does the informal sector play into just transition of the circular economy? And it says that this is the challenge that they identified in a recent study in Zambia. And it seems to be a widespread policy and practical complexity.
Yes, this is super important. And we also found it in our project. For example, we have a couple of cases, one in Morocco, in which we work with the cooperative of women that are collecting informal waste collector of plastic. Or there are other cases like in Kenya that the government is trying to pass a law on circular economy that automatically will make informal collectors illegal. I think that's in many parts of the world, informal workers are super important, especially when it comes to recycling and collecting waste. I don't have like a one silver bullet answer. The important thing is that we need to be aware that when we try to formalize the informal sector, there are all the politics going around. So this is very tricky. The important thing is that to work possibly together with the organization and NGO that are familiar with what's going on the ground, because it's very easy to create a situation in which the higher cost, the higher price is charged on the most vulnerable people. Like for example, in the case of Kenya, is evident.
Fong, do you want to make any references to the ASEAN region? Yes,
yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, in the Asian region, the informal workers, informal collectors are the backbone of the recycling sector. So they contribute a lot to the recycling rate and so on. And so yeah, it's quite important to involve them and to consider them. I have touched a little bit the aspect of upskilling workers. So most of the informal workers are not skilled, not qualified, and there's a big chance or a big risk that they might be left behind when it comes to this transition to circular economy, which focuses more on upstream activities, recycling, reuse, and innovative business models. So we have to integrate them for various topics. GIZ has been working on this topic since many years, and I think we know what is theoretically possible, but in the work on the ground, it is very political. There are different groups with different interests, and also the informal workers, informal sectors have also different interests, and they are not even sometimes not even really willing to be integrated for various reasons. So it's quite challenging. It goes again over only through dialogues, building trust, and trying to understand the different interests and to build compromises among the different stakeholders. Yeah, so very similar. We understand the importance, but there is no silver bullet for this solution. But we are working on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think also, so maybe just 2 points from our side. So on one hand, so the report that we're developing for GIZ also talks about the just transition and the Global Plastic Treaty, because the work, again, for the report is focused on the plastic value chain. So we'll be publishing, obviously in the report, there will be more information about that, but we're also publishing around the INC in the next week or two, just a short kind of position paper, let's call it, around like what should be involved in that plastic treaty, both for the informal sector as well as upstream, because a lot of time the focus sometimes can be always on the informal sector. So we need to make sure it's holistic as well. So it includes the informal sector, but it also includes like the reskilling of workers that are already formalized. And I think also for the informal sector, professionalizing versus formalizing, because as both Mario and Fong said, it's people who don't necessarily want to become formal, but they should have professional in the sense of, you know, decent wages, decent work conditions, a fair environment, and those types of things. So I think that's all the time that we have, because I know that everyone probably is going into different accelerator sessions and has busy work schedules. But I would say if you have additional questions, feel free to drop them in the chats. I left my email earlier in the session as well. Feel free to reach out directly. Again, if you want access to the report, you have the link for the website. I think, Mario, if you have a link for the Just to CE report as well, you can drop that in the chat. You have the PadMad website and the Container Grid website. So if I'm missing anything from all of those links, let me know. Feel free to reach out. And thank you, everyone, for your time and for hanging on for the hour and a half. I hope you took away some good learnings. And yeah, hopefully we're building a good network around this topic. It's important that we all collaborate together across our different organizations. So thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.